Stage is yours.
Just a minute. Okay. So, good evening and hello from India. It's really wonderful to see so many familiar faces here. It makes my life, I think, much easier. So, first of all, I would like to thank INQUA for funding our PalaeoHome projects. And thank you, Stephanie, for kind invitation to speak on the Mapping Ancient Africa Forum. It gives me immense pleasure to share our work. We hope to generate interaction between our projects. Today, I am speaking on behalf of many PIs in our PalaeoHome projects. Some of them are there with us right now in the presentation. Professor Sileshi is there, Dr. Anupama is there, Dr. Prachi Joshi is there, and of course Shanti Papu and Sutanuka Bhattacharya. They are also here, and some of my colleague from India, they are also present here in this presentation. So let me introduce you briefly about our project PalaeoHome. PalaeoHome is the result of a decade of our work in India. This project brings together experts working on the lower Paleolithic to address major issues related to multiple questions on the out of Africa debates, chronology, paleo environments, behavior, technology, and more. We plan to establish global network of scientists to organize hybrid meeting to generate synergies with INQUA projects having similar interests. So this is a very important project which we are going to do over next couple of years and try to have lots and lots of interaction between many groups who are working in India abroad to bring out the history of this subcontinent. So now let us see what we have done so far. We began in the month of March as a part of our project. We brought together colleagues and scholars working in India and Africa to visit lower Paleolithic sites, to plan a major publication on geomorphology and geochronology, and we also collected additional samples for paleobotanical and phytolith studies. And a hybrid brainstorming session at the French Institute of Pondicherry was organized to discuss the way forward and future publication. So further, as a part of our public outreach program, which is the integral part of the PalaeoHome, we began with a workshop for kids, introducing them human evolution, fossils, and stone tools. We have also planned a book and educational video, which are currently being processed, and this will complement what our PI, Dr. Razika, is doing in Algeria as well. So here are upcoming events that we have begun to advertise. We are going to hold a training, uh, ECR skill training workshops in the month of August, ECR online conferences, thematic discussion meetings for scientists, and ask archaeologists. It's a collaborative work between PalaeoHome and Sharma Centre, where school children from the class 6 to 12 will actually interact with the archaeologists and see how archaeologists work in the field and get motivated for the uh, for for future work. So with this background, PalaeoHome, let me introduce our work. Although I am talking here today, but the research I am going to present is the result of a multiple inputs from an ever-growing team of archaeologists and scientists built up over the past 20 years. You can see some of the familiar faces who are working with us, and we are really very thankful to them that they have contributed immensely to this project. So I'm going to speak about our research in Southeast India. So zooming down from pan-Indian perspective to the level of regional Paleolithic landscapes, then specific sites, then to the level of lithic assemblage within the chronological and paleo environmental framework. So our studies is, at the level of landscape level, then we zoom down to the sites, then great details of the lithics, and of course to generate paleo environment and the chronological data. So this is the outer framework of our research here. So this gives you an overall idea about our research, but today I'm going to focus more on Acheulean assemblage, although I will be talking little bit about other cultures and public outreach program as well. So, but before we do that, we need to situate our project within the broader framework of the known and unknown in South Asian Lower Paleolithic studies. So, what are the known actually? So, if you look at the South Asian Paleolithic record, it has a very long history of research. This cumulative research has, on the positive side, yielded high density of sites, rich lithic assemblages, spatial temporal variability, and long records. And on the negative side, the paucity of well-dated sites and excavation, fossil hominins, and other proxies for the lower Paleolithic in particular has led India to being rather poorly represented in the global debates. So this is the overall scenario at this moment. And when you look at the South Asia region has a long record of occupation with potential for informing on key issues on cultural transitions or changes and implication in terms of behavior. So whenever you look at any theories, so unless we look at this region in detail, the story of human evolution cannot be complete. So, I will not go into the details of individual sites, but it is sufficient to say that there is a rich record of sites in diverse sedimentary and ecological contexts, and of course associated with lithic assemblages, with numerous studies highlighting different aspects of hominin cognition through time and space. So, so let us see what we have got actually. When we look at the existence of old one or mode one sites, it remains controversial. I am aware of this fact, but open to interpretation and debate. However, personally, I see no reason why we should not find such sites. I feel it's a matter of time when something concrete will come out. This is my personal belief, and I hope to uh, find something interesting in near future. However, this uncertainty is certainly not the case for Acheulean, for which the earliest appearance at around 1.5 million year remain undisputed, and I will be discussing this issue little later. So, in this context, let us consider our ongoing research project in northern Tamil Nadu, India. Our study region is about 60 kilometers west of the city of Chennai, which is somewhere here. And so we began with looking at the landscape scale of occupation over an area of around 8,000 square kilometer in a region ranging from the coast to the outliers of the eastern Ghats hill ranges to the west, and marked by a diversity of geomorphological contexts. So this is the overall picture of the study region. So if you look at this region, this is a very special region in is a historical sense as well, as the first Paleolithic tools to be discovered in India was found here by Robert Brucefoot in 1863 at the very region where we are working now. And since then, we have a long trajectory of research with our work beginning in 1990s when Professor Papu started to work in this region doing her PhD, and subsequently we started working at the site of Atrampakam, and we are continuing in this region. So, surveying this vast region was quite challenging. Our multi-pronged survey strategies aimed at recovering controlled information on lithic assemblages, and site stratigraphic context through field surveys, GPS and satellite remote sensing, developing predictive location models to locate sites. This was a very useful tool because it was a vast region, so we had to come up with certain new parameters to locate the site, test pits, and recently GPR for identifying sediments of our interest. So this GPR survey that we did recently indicates subsurface deposit, enabling us to track the contours and the variability of beds not only across the site, not only across the site, but around it, thereby gaining a wider understanding of deposit bearing Acheulean occupation horizons. So, so this kind of modern day gadgets are also useful when we are looking at the prehistoric sites, which has a very well stratified and quite a lot of deposit as well. So, following up on old records and our long-term surveys led to the generation of a large database of sites ranging from Acheulean to the late Paleolithic in this region. So what you are seeing, all these dots are different types of sites. Some of them are Acheulean, some of them are Middle Paleolithic, some of them are Late Paleolithic, distributed across 8,000 square kilometer range here. So we also use different resolution of satellite images with field surveys to address archaeological research questions and purpose of culture resource management for the conservation of prehistoric sites. This also helped us to look at the variability in terms of site distribution pattern, raw material use, drainage, and other factors. So like here is an example, despite long-term continuity through the early to late Pleistocene on a regional scale, we note marked changes in the areas by Acheulean population as compared with the Middle Paleolithic, arising owing to multiple factors ranging from sediment exposures, raw material, and behavioral implications. So, so these maps has definitely helped us to understand the different types of variables across this region. So equally important are the differences in the site size, artifact densities, and assemblage composition across the region that give us lot of insights into functional variability, but also forces us to tackle quite complex issues of palimpsest and formation processes. So this issue I think most of us faced during our field work. So now we zoom here to one of the core region we are currently studying. With these yellow dots marking sites and our ongoing excavation, this with research at several key sites aimed at looking at different questions that we will discuss here. So let's look at. So one of the most important sites we are researching is Athrampakam, and here you can see the landscape contour. You can see here it's heavily contoured and areas covered by a high density of artifacts eroding out from the various layers onto the surface, thereby ensuring an importance in the history of prehistoric archaeology in India. So, so what we have done at Atrampakam, if you look at this is the contour map of the site, it's heavily gullied. So to obtain a large sample size, we have put trenches across the site. So on the northern side, on the central region, on the southern side of, we have put different types of trenches. Some of them are horizontal, some of them are step trenches to obtain a large sample size. So, so these large samples, this is really important in India, where there is very little else other than lithics to rely on for a behavioral inferences. So you have to, your sample size have to be large and data recovery has to be very high resolution, because especially at this time period, we we don't get other proxies. We get most of our information comes from the lithics. So we have to have a good sizable samples to talk about on the other aspect as well. So let's look at little bit of our methods. At each sites, we divides and adopted strategies to suit the nature of the sediments and question asked. A thorough documentation protocol was adopted. I won't go into the details of the each of them, but every inch of sediments were passed through less than 1 to 2 millimeter shape to recover every bit of information And this ultimately helped us to establish the integrity of the assemblage, which is a very, very crucial thing. So now let us see what actually we are getting. Look at the stratigraphy of the sites. We have a total of about 8 sedimentary units across the site, out of which from layer 6 to 8 yielded Acheulean, and 2 to 5 is middle Paleolithic, and layer 1 is the sterile. So today's talk I will focus on Acheulean. So let's look at the Acheulean level in details. So these these thick, low-energy fluvial lacustrine deposits with Acheulean lithic assemblage suggest hominin visited the locality for a very long period of time. You can see it's a very, very thick deposit, potentially seasonally for specific activities reflected primarily in the presence of these large flake tools. You can see here hand axes, cleavers, and uh, conjoinable flakes found in situ suggest the high integrity of the site. So what we did, we dated these sediments by using paleomagnetic and cosmogenic burial measurement, and that gave us an age range from around 1.07 to around 1.7 million, with a mean of around 1.5 million. And uh, so obviously it has a lot of implication in terms of debates on hominin migration out of Africa, as also understanding evolutionary trajectories within the Indian Acheulean and local adaptation. So this was, I think, far more interesting than the date, I think, because in one shot we can we became the part of the global debate the moment our date was as old as some of the dates from Africa and elsewhere in the world. So look at the assemblage, what we are getting. We have a typical large flake Acheulean, different types of hand axes, cleavers, knives, trihedrals, picks, and a very large amount of small flake tool component, and of course the waste products and debitage. So if you look at the spatial variability in artifact density, we see artifact density, tool types, and technological strategies across the site and through time. So you see these Acheulean assemblages are found in most of the trenches, in almost all the trenches. There are some variabilities, and this also you can see the variability through through time as well. There are some peaks, there are places where there are few artifacts. So this kind of variability was also noticed across the site. So as we all know, raw material plays a very significant role during Acheulean occupation. The sediment at Atrampakam lack any large cobbles or boulders suitable for large flake production. This is a very important observation. We don't have raw material at Acheulean level at the sites. So thus all raw material was sourced within a radius of about 5 to 10 kilometers from the site, or possibly closer, with a large flakes being transported to the site and reduced further. So, to understand this problem in detail, we are currently using XRD, XRF, and Raman for provenance study as well. So, so this gives you an idea about the simplified reduction sequence. So, what is happening? So, if you look at here, we don't have any large core at the site. So, these are offsites, and the large flakes were detached, and these large flakes at different stage of manufacture were introduced to the site, sometimes large flakes or sometimes partially made bifaces, they were introduced to the sites, and these large flakes were further shaped into different types of bifaces or different types of scraper. And this has yielded a large amount of waste products which was converted into small flake tools. Very few tools are on cobble blanks, as you can see here, and the we have very few hammer stones. Possibly they were curated. So this is the overall reduction sequence at Acheulean level. So, to understand the lithic better, we have applied a very strict experimental archaeology uh, uh, program to investigate the Acheulean behavior. I will not go into the detail, but this approach helped us honestly to understand our technological and typological issues better. So, so what we did, a very structured experimental protocol was put in place, right from sourcing and selecting the raw materials, large and giant, large and giant core reduction, and nature of flakes, what was selected, and subsequent decision making in making these hand axes and cleavers, and all these stages were recorded very carefully pre, during, and post snapping. So we could replicate hand axes and cleavers, and this has helped us to identify flaking patterns. You can see here, and generativity, and thus technology in a archaeological assemblage. So it was a great tool to have the experimental uh, uh, protocol did to understand the archaeological assemblage, and we did that on our local raw material as well. So it's not like that we have worked on different kinds of raw material like chert or other thing. Rather than we choose to do it on quartzite, so that we can compare this data, compare the debitage, compare the hand axe, compare the flicking pattern more closely to the archaeological uh, samples. Then we noticed there was a strategy to tackle the issues of paucity of raw material at the site in terms of curation of hammerstones and detecting biface thinning flakes as a small flake tool. So uh, we are also working on microware of the tool. For this, we are in the process of creating the database on local raw material. Thus, we conducted experiments involving a variety of actions, including scraping, cutting, peeling of fresh and dry materials, recording a number of variables that are currently under analysis. So, whatever we could think of that have been used, we are trying to uh, use it with the same with different tool on different material with more timing, and we are recording at all stages and trying to create a database on quartzite. So something we have done it for cleaver as well. You can see here the cleaver is used for scraping the hardwood, the cutting the wood bone, or slicing uh, uh, the hardwood. And then we are trying to look at the breakage pattern, what kind of polish you get on the tool, and ultimately try to compare this assemblage with our archaeological material. Of course, this is done with the help of colleagues in Senior, Spain. Professor Sileshi is with us, and I'm really grateful that they have trained me on this, and we are taking forward this project in a big way. So equally interesting is the question of Acheulean ending and transition to the Middle Paleolithic that that we see occurring here around 300,000. So Acheulean ends uh, uh, around 300,000. Although this is not the subject today of the talk, but this is a phenomena which we see elsewhere in the world also. So our colleagues are researching paleo environments. Dr. Anupama is here. I think Professor Prem Tilake is also with us. And, uh, and also as a part of the PalaeoHome, we are in the process of generating more data on this topic. We have made some good publications. You can go through uh, about them. It's there on our website as well. So, so this that was the story of Atrampakam. So now what? Let us see what was happening on a regional scale. So we excavated another important site called Sendainpalayam, which is not very far from Atrampakam. This is so Sendainpalayam, which is not very far from Atrambakkam, of course, closer to the hill ranges, and which has yielded fascinating results. So Sen is also a stratified size where we have Acheulean overlying an assemblage which is full of small pores and flakes. So the site has rich lower Paleolithic horizon with interesting pattern emerging from spatial distribution of artifacts that we are currently investigating through 3D mapping and geospatial studies. So the Acheulean is rich in biface, and we are currently working on the 3D geometric morphometrics of the hand axe. Dr. Prachi Joshi is with us in her Homibhava project. Uh, we scanned almost around 250 hand axes and cleavers, and now we can compare this with the Atrampakam data and other globally, and try to see what types of pattern is going to emerge here. So this is another studies which is uh, uh, under progress in our center along with my colleague Dr. Prachi, and hope to get a good results soon. So, and we got many refits that we are currently researching in this trench from top to bottom. Even in layer 2 and layer 3, there are lots and lots of refits we are getting at this site. And just and give you an idea about what kind of core we are getting. These are very simple cores, as you can see here in a 3D. Sometimes they are minimally exploited. Sometimes they have um, urine directional course, and detailed study we are doing right now. Uh, and our colleagues are trying to date these layers and hope to get a good result shortly. And we will come to you again uh, once we have results in hand. So we firmly believe that this is almost the end of my presentation. We firmly believe that this research, what we do, this must reach to the public. So for this purposes, we have uh, a very robust public outreach program in our center. Uh, we do this public outreach at the level of children. We start conducting workshops for them from the age of say 8 or 9 and till class 12, and then the college university students, faculty, and for the different modules for the local stakeholders, uh, and for the general public. So this model of research involving the kids, the college students, the local stakeholder ultimately help us in the capacity building, and uh, and uh, and we could take the young minds at very from a very young age. So through our workshops, through our online courses, we are able to uh, bring out lot of publication as well. And when we excavate, that time we do conduct uh, workshops for the children, college students at the site. They visit our sites. Then we teach them about the prehistory uh, all the time. And we have made many more uh, uh, publications. We have made videos which is available on YouTube. So just to communicate our research to a larger audience. So what do we hope to achieve here? Building more synergies with Mapping Ancient Africa and other like-minded INQUA projects. So that is our ultimate aim, that both PalaeoHome and the Mapping Ancient Africa project, we could work together because we have lots of common things to share with. And thank you very much for inviting me again and patient listening. And lastly, I wish to thank so many funding agency and other organizations, government and private, who have helped us throughout the uh, throughout our research. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Kumar. Thank you so, so much. This was a wonderful presentation. I'm gonna just jump right into the question and answer. So if there's any question from the audience, go ahead, raise your hand or just speak up. I do have questions for myself, so but since Sileshi, I saw your hand was up, so I just gonna hand over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Malvika. Sileshi, you are muted. I can't hear you. You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just unmuted it. Um, Kumar, Shanti, you guys did a wonderful job, and I see a lot of progress with your research and investigation, and especially after your last publication on the Ashulayan and Middle Paleolithic, a lot of progress. What I would like to ask is, I'm sure you had this before. I saw several layers with your Acheulean excavation,
Correct.
to seven, something like that.
Six
And
to
my
eight, three
question is,
layers.
huh?
6 to 8, 3 layers.
Yes. So are those are distinct layers? Do you have artifacts in these different layers, or I don't know how
We
many
have.
layers?
We have
I'm
full
asking
of.
because that would be really important to see the technological evolution of the Acheulean through time, which
Correct.
we all need uh, to study. That's
Yes.
my that's my first question. Second question, do you have archaeological sites between the Acheulean and the Middle Paleolithic that you discovered? And the third one is, do you have layers again, like the Acheulean, in the Middle Paleolithic that would show some technological evolution?
Okay. So thank you so much, Sileshi. But these are very, very interesting questions which you have asked actually. So we have 3 layers of where Acheulean exists: layer 6, layer 7, and layer 8, and all the 3 layers contains Acheulean artifacts. So there is no layer which doesn't have the. And right now, what we have also done, we have made the 3D of the entire biface of at Atrambakam, and we are trying to look at through AGMT, 3D geometric morphometrics. Is there any variability we are noticing? But if you look at the in shape, but if you look at the overall composition, we don't see much. We have in all the layers, we have the bifaces, we have the knives, we have the other Acheulean component. It is there. So this is the first thing. The second thing, regarding Middle Paleolithic, yes, we have a layer at Atrambakam, which is on top of that. Today, because this talk was focusing on Acheulean, I didn't talk about it. So we have layer 5, 4, 3, 2 as a Middle Paleolithic layer, where we have on layer 5, we have a transition from Acheulean to Middle. And what was your third question? Uh,
No, anything in between, archaeological site between the Acheulean and the Middle Paleolithic.
Well, we hope to find that at another site and in our regional surveys, yes, but those are not dated. And
Chalo.
without being dated, it's extremely difficult to be very sure about the ending of the exact ending. But elsewhere in India, and we have here Akash, we have Neetu, we have Malvika from working at other sites in India, and I'm pretty sure they are also getting very, very interesting patterning coming from the Acheulean endings and this whole question of transitions. But it's a very problematic area as of now in India.
Yeah, you just answered my question. I was going to ask about the dating. I know it's ongoing research, and Mohammed came with a guy who does PMAG. So keep our fingers crossed to get results.
Correct.
Last question, any luck with fauna?
No,
Not at our
nothing.
sites.
No. That's
Yeah.
why we have to rely more on lithics actually. So whatever information you have to get, primarily it has to come from the lithics. So that is why we are going into a great detail to understand the lithic actually. So at this time period, fauna is really, really difficult to get. Nothing is there.
Yeah,
Almost.
great job.
Thank you, Sileshi.
Thank you so much. There's a question in the chat. You might want to have a look at that from Akash.
Yeah. Are there any technical questions in?
So I'm gonna read it out, so it's in the recording. Are there any technological changes in the non-biface elements, cores and flakes, in the lower Paleolithic? What percentage of the total lower Paleolithic lithic assemblage are the bifaces?
Can I answer? Okay. So it's a great question because at Atirampakam, we have very, very few cores. As Akhilesh said, the site lacks raw material sources nearby, and we have very sparse cores. So this doesn't come in the question at Atirampakam at all. In the other sites, Sendra and Palyam, which Prachi and Akhilesh are working on, I think both of them are there, although Prachi's connection is not that great. It's full of codes. So these are really true manufacturing sites. And there is a huge difference in the lithic core technologies between the different layers, between layer 2 and layer 3, and they are working on that right now. And what percentage are bifaces? Well, at Atirampakam, both sides, as far as the Acheulean is concerned, they are very high. So we have quite a number of hand axes, and the cleaver percentage in all our sites is extremely low in proportion to the hand axes. And this is a common thing in all the assemblages at the sites we are working on. So it is very different from what you would see somewhere in central India or western India or somewhere else. Does that answer your question? The core technology is being published, I think, by Prachi, Akhilesh, Mohammad, Sileshi. They are working on that paper right now. And once the dates come, we'll be able to give you a better idea.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I look forward to the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, you're always very welcome to come and see the assemblages also.
Definitely will do that.
P2 has already come and seen, Dr. Sheila Mishra has seen, many others have come. You're very welcome.
Yes, ma'am, we'll do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Malavika has her hand up, or he has his hand up, I'm sorry.
She is fine. Thank you so much. Hello, sir. Good evening. I had a question based on, say, layer 5 or the transitional part between Acheulean and middle. So, one, how would you compare it to, say, if you had to say, the Patpara formation in the Middle Swan Valley? Second, what is your opinion about such an early date for the Acheulean? And in terms of efficiency, wouldn't it be better to subsume it in an early middle Paleolithic technology?
Which one? The Patpara one?
Yeah, 120,000, at least that's what they say, 120. Yeah, so what is your opinion? I mean, it doesn't have to be technically correct, but yeah, it kind of confuses us a lot to have such a young Acheulean. Wouldn't it be
Well,
a
why
middle
not?
Paleolithic?
Well, why not? See, the whole thing is, this is my belief, and I think Akhilesh and we argue about this all the time. Is a question of our nomenclature. So, what are you calling an early middle versus what are you calling a very, very late Acheulean? Is it only on the presence of a hand axe or its absence, or is it a bigger question? And in our view, we felt when we wrote the paper which got published in Nature, we felt that we should not do this on the basis of presence or absence of hand axes alone, but to look at the entire assemblage. What are the changes going on in the technology? What are the changes typologically? What is the overall change which is occurring in any assemblage where you feel that it has a major behavioral implication? And therefore, this debate about is it a late Acheulean, is it an early middle, It's there in several sites, as you correctly said, in Central and Patpara and elsewhere as well. Not only in India, in Africa, I think there are major debates on this. So this is something which we really need to sit and think about, because my late Acheulean is somebody else's early middle and vice versa. It's meaningless. So unless we work on what we feel is a correct nomenclature, which is obviously not going to be globally accepted, there will be differences, and that is the way we have to progress. There's no simple answer to this question. But Akhilesh felt, and he worked on the technology more than I did, that the whole assemblage must be factored in. Where is the change occurring? And Athirampakam, it's very clear. There's a definite change from layer 6 to layer 5. And then from layer 5, within the middle, there is a change from layer 5 to layer 2. So we see that very clearly, and that's as far as our site is concerned. How it compares to other sites is more difficult, because again, there are very, very few dates in India to compare with. So once more sites like what Anil is doing and more sites are being dated, then we get a better idea. Over to you, Akhilesh.
And that's why we have argued in our paper that you need to look at the complete assemblage. You cannot look at one component or some type fossil kind of artifact, and based on your cultural classification on that. So what Professor Shanti said, that you need to look at where the change is actually occurring. That is very important to identify, and then you look at your entire assemblage, then things becomes much clearer in my view. That's what we feel about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there more questions? There are a bunch of comments in the chats on this very important discussion on the nomenclature. But are there any more questions from the audience?
I was curious. I did see a photo of a giant core, a giant
Yes.
Acheulean core. Is that from your site?
It's offsite. It's from the other side. That's why I've written offsite also. So there was at Sendai and Palyam, the other side. So at Athirampakam, at Acheulean level, we don't have any large core or any class sufficient enough to produce large flake. Can you
Yeah,
mute us?
that's really nice, because
Yeah.
those elements are really, really rare in the archaeological record. I have seen one or two or three at Konso Gardula with the Konso project. I haven't seen the actual giant core, but I have seen a photo from the Middle Awash. That's about it. So far at Gona, we don't have a giant core. They were all
we have
large cobbles or large flakes. That's it. So
that's true.
impressive.
Athirampakam, Acheulean level, we have no giant core, but definitely in the region, which is because raw material is available actually very close to the site, 10 kilometers radius. So you have this quite a lot of giant core at different sites actually. So, and it's very interesting. Yeah.
In fact, Prachi is working on the course with Akhilesh, the giant course, and not only giant course, some giant, really big hand axes as well. So we hope we can, they'll be publishing that.
Awesome.
And very large Combeba flake as well. So the size of the Combeba flake is really big here in some of the cases. So that also explains a lot of the variability in this region as far as Acheulean is concerned. So I'm sorry I didn't have any time. I thought that I will focus my talk on the Acheulean because it's linked with the PalaeoHome. That's why I didn't take up the Middle Paleolithic at all. So maybe in the next talk I can talk more about Middle Paleolithic.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you so much. As a paleoclimatologist, I do have a question. So, as a non-archaeologist, have you looked in all these layers and other findings that can also be used for the paleoclimatology reconstruction, pollen, whatever it might be? And are you planning, or you already have done publications on that?
Yes, our colleague Dr. Anupama, Dr. Doris, Dr. Prem Tilake. So they are working on this aspect, and we have made some publication. I will email to you personally. And still we have recently we have collected some more samples for further studies on phytoliths uh, and the pollen.
Yeah,
So
isotopes.
Dr. Vandana Prasad is going to work on it. Dr.
Many
Doris,
colleagues, Yanni
many
Gunnell,
colleagues
many
actually.
colleagues are there. And yes, that's right. And it's very hard because to get fossils from the type of sediments we are working with is very difficult in this region. So we have to use as many other proxies as possible, which we are doing with some great colleagues. And it's part of Akhilesh and Prachi and the PalaeoHome project as well. So their field work has generated many more samples now, which are being sent for analysis. So maybe more publications soon.
Okay, that's really interesting. Does this also include charcoal, just out of really like of interest, because we have ongoing charcoal projects in Eastern Africa that
Exactly.
cover some of the periods, and I would be really interested into the charcoal and whether or not the sites that you have across India actually contain sites that are hearth, like where people used fire. Is that
That's
something to see?
it's fascinating question, and it's something which we are actually we were discussing this with some other colleagues the other day. Prachi is also here on micro charcoal from some of the sites. We've collected samples, so let's see where that goes. We had a brainstorming meeting, as he said, in March. They had a major brainstorming meeting, and we discussed this, and let's see how that proceeds, because we don't get absolute evidence of arts at these sites at all. But you never know what might be there, because they have excavated really well, and micro samples were collected from everywhere. So we don't know. It's something which is new in India, and I think it can yield very potential results.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, because Brooke Lemmer, who's online, he will start a postdoc with me in October, and he's focusing on the Ethiopian region, Chibahar, to basically do the fire history based on not just on the charcoal presence and abundancy, but above all else about fire intensity, which you can reconstruct using FTIR on the charcoal particles if they're big enough. So we have some preliminary data from West Africa and East Africa coming in soon. And I would just be really, really interested in terms of methodology, in terms of the limitations of this approach and comparability of things. Like one of the things we apply for the charcoal is that you can reconstruct what actually burned, depending if the particles are big enough, and their FTIR spectrum. So I would be really interested to see what comes out of your things, because it can be quite old, for one, and actually outdates the stuff we're working on in Ethiopia, for one, but also just in terms of the mythology that you use and the things. I would be very much interested to see what you're coming out of there.
Yes, definitely. Actually, we will get in touch with you. So
That would be great. Thank you so much.
yes.
So my questions are mostly answered. So there's that. Are there more questions from other people? I don't want to steal time from other people because we're approaching our 1 hour time slot. So I want to give other people a shot as well. Are there any more questions from the audience then?
No, just half a minute.
Yep.
I can get your email, Brooke, from Kumar or vice versa. We can get in touch.
That would be really nice.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, that's perfect. Great. Any other questions or comments or things you would like to say while we're at it?
So the main aim is that we want to have a lot of interaction between like-minded people who are working on this domain within India and across the globe. So thank you, really thank you for giving us this wonderful opportunity on mapping Ancient Africa Forum. So we really
It's our
appreciate it.
pleasure. It's very much our pleasure, because we are basically looking for the same. How can we interconnect, particularly these out of Africa phases, is something that combines the work we do across both
Correct.
continents, subcontinents. So it makes absolutely sense to strengthen the synergies between this project as much as we can. If there are no further questions, then I would simply close for today, if that's okay. Again, we will see that we can put the video up on YouTube within the week or something like that, so people can watch online and catch up. And thank you again very, very much for making yourself available for this. It was an absolute pleasure to listening to all your great work that you're doing. So thank you very much. And I hope all of you have a wonderful late evening, early evening,
Yes.
afternoon, depending on where you are, and all the best to everyone.
So thank you so much for
Good weekend.
Thank you.
yeah.
We'll be in
Thank
touch.
you. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Ciao,
Thank
ciao.
you.
Yeah. Bye bye.